Alright, today we're going to be going over the running of traps. And the very first thing in running of traps is kind of setting that stage. If you're going to do this verbally, then you're mostly just going to be showing pictures and telling them how they failed. But if we're going to do this in the graph sense, we're going to do it on a battle map, then we want to have a few things set up before we begin. This is mostly just to help the players not cheat themselves of the hilarity. So once you have your map kind of picked out, this particular one is something that my players have not yet gone through, but once you have your map picked out, you can verify that we've got all of our walls and things set up here. You'll see how some of this interacts in a little bit. This is where we're going to begin, up here. These are pit impressions, which will be demonstrated here. But basically, the traps themselves we can create as NPCs. If you don't know where they're coming from, this is going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. Your players are going to say, "Where is it coming from?" I like to know where those things are coming from, and you'll see where that helps and matters here in a minute. So we're gonna. Well, she got stuck on the outside, but let's drop her in. With the people on the map, what we want to do is we want to set up a few roles ahead of time, and we're going to roll those on refresh while we're going. So perception is one of the skills, and the initiatives. Okay, so we're going to roll everybody's initiative, and we're going to get everybody's perception roll. And these base rolls are going to be what they utilize. So now I'm not calling out for the specific roll when the event happens. But we'll look at the initiative compared to their perceptions here in a sec. If they have a marching order, then that can alter a little bit about what's happening. Alright, so the falling for traps portion here is we're going to initiate them in order of the actions they want to take. You're going to see one of them doesn't have dark vision, the other two do. So one of the first things she'd probably do is cast light. At least that's what happens all the time for me. So now that she's cast light, she gets to take movement and immediately falls for a pit trap, because remember, her perception was like a 2. Alright, now you'll see the light no longer descends out. They notice she falls in the pit. But it's up to her to get out if she wants to continue her movement. So she'll make her skill check, and if she succeeds, then she'll be allowed to climb out of the pit. It'll absorb as much movement as she had, but you click on this and it will open the pit and allow you to move them out. Now, where the dart traps are and where they are in the initiative, we go ahead and bring them up. Okay, so they're going to proceed down this hallway, trying to avoid the pit traps while being attacked by the darts. Now, if they decide to deal with the traps on the wall, they absolutely can, but they will have to take them down one by one, which is part of the reason I designate locations and how many there are. Now, Callan had a much higher perception, so he's going to have no issues passing up, but he's going to move his 25-ish feet, and he will be able to identify where the other pit traps were, and then he's going to relax where he is. Now, other people haven't even identified where some of these traps are, and they're being pinged by the darts as they proceed down the hallway. Now, she's the last one in this roll that didn't have very high perception. Now, since Callan already identified one of the pit traps, we're going to let her go by, and she falls in a pit trap. Alright, so now that everybody has utilized their perception roll and gone in initiative, we'll go ahead and re-roll everybody's perception, and that is now their new target for what they can and can't see. I'm going to bring up one instance here. Since she's in a pit, you'll notice that she can't be targeted. That is accurate. Alright, so if she wasn't in the pit, she could have been fired at. Danger and areas. So this is about area of effect attacks. This next room was kind of set up as we'll call it a clock. So as the people are coming into the room, I'll actually need to get her in the room. We'll have the door shut. right? Because that's dramatic. And now that they're stuck in with this statue, of course the statue is going to be a trap. And what they're going to have to do is either disable the trap, destroy the statue, they need to get out of the room, but it's going to shoot out a cone of fire that is going to rotate around the statue. So they have choices, right? Their choices are to move around and try and stay out of the area effect and try to work around that timing, or they can try to disable it, or come up with another method of beating the fire. So everybody would initially be moving around the room, and then once people are moving around the room, then we would say, okay, like the triggering effect, right? So when does the statue turn on? I would say probably when they enter the room, but when the statue turns on, that's going to set where it is in the initiative, and every time its turn comes up, we're going to rotate the fire. Now, she's going to attempt to open the door, as she is their pickpocket utility. She has not succeeded in opening the door, which means they now have to contend with the trap going through its rotation. Now, in instances like this, where it's like an AoE, I don't permit attack rolls. Like it doesn't roll to attack. It just hits whoever's in there. If it's particularly deadly, you might want to allow something like a dexterity save for half, but in this case I don't like it. So it's going to continue rotating around. If I wanted this to remain up, I could have right-clicked and kept it up, but I didn't. Now, two of the individuals are going to continue to rotate around because they don't want to be hit by the fire. The other individual makes a choice. She's going to try give it another try to open the gate. Now, if she fails and doesn't have movement, then she would be hit by the pit trap, but she has succeeded and opened the next door. And so she would then continue her movement out into the hallway, and the other people would then have to come and join her. So now, I guess the only real extra mark here is since we're running in turn order, these individuals might actually have to wait or delay their turn unless they want to run through the fire, which is an active choice. They can or not. Alright, the secret doors and investigation rolls. So I know some other DMs have gone over dogpiling rules and stuff like that. I just like to make my players give me more explanation on what they're trying to do. It kind of slows down or limits dogpiling. So one person goes around the corner, sees that there's a wall. The other person goes around the other corner, sees that there's a wall. So these two are going to come over and check out this wall and try and figure out what's going on, why there's no further here. She doesn't really have any investigation skill or insight, and she has no investigation. She has some insight, so they're going to team up, and this is a great way to do this. If somebody doesn't have the roll, two of you help each other, and one of you rolls with advantage. All right, we're going to say that passes, and she identifies this. Now, I have these numbered, so I know which one's open when. But he sees the door come open and goes down and comes into another wall, and now he actually has some skill to investigate this, and he's going to take a look at this other wall, and he succeeds. So then the next sequence of secret doors will open. It's a little finicky. Sometimes you gotta click right in the center, which is convenient because tokens can be over the top of them and it doesn't stop you from utilizing them. But alright, so he's activated the next wall and now can see that there's a passage through, and the other individuals can see the passage through. They're going to proceed down. Now we're still floating some of their perception rolls from before, but that's not quite relevant. So now someone's like, look, there's an obvious thing on the table, and everybody knows that's probably going to be a problem, right? So then each player is going to say, well, we want to investigate for traps, but more specifically, I'm like, what are you looking at? So he goes and investigates the other statue. He says this thing's fine, and then the other person goes and investigates the other statue, and they say it's fine. Now, this is what I mean by, like, I I don't want them to be like, I searched the room for traps. I would say that would take days, take hours, I don't know. Anyways, it would take a long time. So now the person goes up to the stairs and they were incorrect. It was trapped, and now one of them wakes up. Now, well, it's kind of sitting on top of it, but we'll just push her out of the way. But when they wake it up, it'll come into turn order, just like before. So if we continue doing movements and turn orders, we would know, like, we don't have to now figure out, okay, well, who gets to take an action, reaction. If someone took the alert feed or something like that, I might allow them to do something before other people, as they're just paranoid. Anyways, now they have a choice, right? Like, she has the item. Do they run? Do they just take off back down the corridor? They can, but you know, players don't typically run. Now you'll see, like, some of these things are just turned on for me to give the demonstration what the players look like. Side rooms and stuff like that, I don't like attaching them directly to the map. So you'll see I have one kind of off to the side there, and that's because over here in one of the pit traps, they had the opportunity to identify this. Now this is a sealed off area, like I have it on the map sealed off, and I also make my things a little skewed, so they're not easily to predict if they're secret rooms or not. There's almost always secret rooms, but I put them off to the side so they can't just identify when they haven't found a place. Now you'll re-roll those perception checks every time they fail or successfully use them, and you'll re-roll those initiatives during combat sequences. And that has been running traps here.